in any other country, the words that I said, they'd be like, well, who cares about this guy, honestly? In Russia, if they stop me and see it, they'll be like, oh my God, you're sponsored by the West. You betrayed our country.
Hello, everybody, and today I'm going to be talking on why you should leave Russia now.
I'm gonna try to get over the border, get to Turkey somehow. Because we have like 22 hours to get to the Georgian border, basically. It says it right here. 22 hours, 28 minutes. I'm just at the Russian border right now, and guess what? I just crossed the Russian border. You could see it right there.
Hey, my name is Ivan, and I have a YouTube channel called Sanctioned Ivan, where I basically show my life and try to help some people.
Why did you decide to start your YouTube channel?
So before the sanctions hit, I used to work for an American company, and then when the sanctions hit, they couldn't pay me money because there's like no SWIFT payments and stuff like that. So after that, I mean, I didn't have a job, so I was like, maybe I should start doing something. And I just basically took my phone and started recording how life is in Russia.
Bershka is closed. Starbucks actually closed. New Balance is open. Levi's is actually closed. And well, what's really interesting is Marks and Spencer's is still open.
What was life like when the war in Ukraine first started?
Well, you know, to be honest with you, when the whole like war started up, I was posting on my Facebook all the time, like, why is this happening and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure you could like literally still find all those Facebook posts. But rather than that, I mean, life in Russia was the exact same. I mean, nothing changed except of a bunch of people putting like Z signs on their cars and stuff like that.
Could you describe the attitudes of people in Russia when the war first broke out and how that sort of evolved over time when you were there?
I mean, when the whole war started, I think a lot of people were like, why is this happening? And then the second wave was when people actually, I think, got brainwashed, because it's easy to get brainwashed in Russia. You just have like random people and news outlets everywhere telling the exact same thing. And they kind of started going, you know, oh yeah, for our people, we're going to go to war as well. And then on TikTok, which is funny enough, I kept seeing like a bunch of people saying, why are you taking the kids to war? We were like, I don't know, 30, 40 years old. We can go there. And then when the mobilization started, everybody, like a lot of people in Russia had like the Z stickers on their cars. And then when the mobilization was announced, I mean, in my neighborhood, a bunch of people just took the Z stickers off straight away, because I'm guessing that they were scared they would be the first ones to go there. And then, yeah, I mean, after the mobilization stopped, everybody kind of calmed down. Well, the mobilization stopped. Everybody calmed down in Russia, thinking that nothing is going to happen. And there's rumors that apparently the whole, I don't know if it's like a propaganda thing happening, that apparently the war is going to stop soon, but I doubt that's going to happen. Yeah. And now the people who left Russia for like 3 or 4 months, apparently if you fly back to Russia right now, you get interrogated by like the FSB of why you were out of the country for so long. What did you do? When they like check out your phone, social medias and stuff like that. So it's crazy what's going on in there.
Do you think there's a particular type of person who's more susceptible to this propaganda and getting brainwashed?
I thought about it before, and I always thought it's the old people. But in reality, you could kind of like see a few interviews of like old people. Some old people actually don't like the war. They don't like the government. And then you would have some young person who's like 18 years old, has absolutely no idea what's going on in the world, saying that, oh yeah, let's vote for this president and let's fight the Nazis or whatever. I don't know. It's stupid.
Was that creating rifts within families?
Well, there's definitely, I know a few people in Turkey that they left and they stopped talking to their families because they were always watching like the television and stuff like that. And they were completely for the war, and the people who left were against it. So there's like, as you can call it, a generation clash.
The government is trying to make the citizens feel like the whole world is literally against them. And in a lot of videos of interviews and stuff like that, you could really see people of Russia are blaming the Americans for everything bad that is happening in their own country. And I'm just wondering, why don't you blame yourself and the government in general? I mean, it is your government that has done this to you.
Were you ever concerned about your own safety with posting your YouTube videos and, as you mentioned, posting things on Facebook as well?
Well, to be honest with you, about Facebook, I don't know. I was just kind of posting. About YouTube, yes. I mean, I'm not really planning to go back to Russia anytime soon. So I'm just like posting what I think about, because I just think this is like absolutely unacceptable that I can't, you know, express my opinion on my channel and then be afraid to go back to my house because someone can arrest me, or worst case scenario is not even being arrested. They give you like a paper saying you're mobilized and they send you off to Ukraine or something.
Were you called up to fight? Were you ever part of that mobilization?
To be honest with you, no, because I have a military ID, but I have like I'm not supposed to do military, so I didn't actually do the compulsory 1 year service, because there's ways that you can get away with it. And yeah, I didn't want to kind of, try my luck of waiting in Russia, for example, waiting for myself to be called up, because I was always also afraid that even if I didn't leave Russia and I would be driving through Moscow, for example, and I get stopped by the police and they say, well, you know what? Here's a mobilization letter.
You probably know about the whole mobilization situation, which really sucks. It kind of ruined every single plan that I had, and it's time to flip and escape this place, get my ass out of here.
So tell me, what point did you decide to leave and what was your reasoning for that?
So the story is actually quite funny. I was actually stuck in a traffic jam in Moscow and I was really bored. So I flipped on a VPN, went on an Instagram, turned on the first story that I saw, and it said mobilization in Russia. And I'm like, what does mobilization even mean? What is this? So I started Googling it. And then when I realized what it was, first of all, I was angry because that meant that anybody could be sent over to the front lines. And second of all, I was like, okay, well, I need to think of how to leave Russia by tomorrow.
So was it a tough decision for you to leave?
Well, yes, my family is still in Russia, but they were like all up for me. They were like, yeah, get the heck out. There's like nothing to do here right now. So yeah, it was easier, the fact that, I had support as well.
And tell me about your journey leaving. Was it difficult to leave?
We drove for like 6 days because we were stuck in a traffic jam for 2 days in the Russian-Georgian border. And yeah, and then for the rest, we were kind of driving.
The Russian police was blocking any sort of movement around the place. You weren't able to get to the border. I had to drive my Cadillac in forests.
It was very hard to pass through the borders because the Russian police blocked off roads, and they actually had people. They were like ordinary citizens that lived there, but if you would have paid them money, they knew a way to go around those police blocks. So we had to also pay those ordinary civilians to go through. So that was hard.
So guys, we finally made it to Turkey. We passed all the checks, we got the insurance for our car. Now we need to get ourselves a SIM card and a place where we can flip and wash ourselves and sleep for the night.
So once we passed all the blocks, once we passed the 2-day traffic jam at the border, and once I was in neutral zone, and after the Russian customs let me out, I had a sense of relief, because after such a long journey, I was let out, and I wasn't sure because they were turning some people around. And then yeah, once I got into Georgia's borders, they didn't even check my car in Georgia. They just looked at my passport, put a stamp, and let me go. So that was a happy day.
Why Turkey? What was the incentive there?
I didn't really 100% trust Georgia, because I always had this feeling that it's so close to kind of Russia, even after the 2008 conflict and stuff like that. And Turkey is in NATO, so I was like, well, that does feel a bit safer, and it is easier to get there than any other country.
Is there anything that you wish you had known before you had left?
Basically, it's very hard in Turkey to open up a bank account right now. Like, you either have to like put a $5,000 deposit, which is quite a lot of money for a month, or you could like go to another town, which would be like very far away to open up a bank account. But when I was leaving Russia myself, I already had a bank account from Kazakhstan, because once everything started to feel a bit weird in Russia, I kind of quickly opened up a bank account in Kazakhstan, so I could be able to, at any time, if I did have to leave, use that card and use that bank account.
Would you say that it's quite common for young Russians to be leaving Russia like you're doing, or would you say that you're an anomaly?
Well, I think there were tons of people that left, like young people and middle-aged people. But the thing is, I'd say around 40% of them actually went back already. Because the main problem is that, for example, in Turkey, even if you go to Turkey, you can't work here at all, except if you get a work visa. But to get a work visa, you have to go through a lot of stuff. So a lot of people just kind of escape. They spend their money, and then they realized, well, there's no more money. We can't really do much here. So they started going back.
Have you spoken to people who have gone back, and how did they find that?
Well, I haven't really spoken to them, to be honest with you, but I just know a few people that I kind of made friends in Turkey, that they kind of ended up being back there, because it's just hard. If you don't have a job online, there's nothing to do here. And if you did even find a job in Turkey, I mean, the average salary is at around like $400, $500 a month. Considering that apartment rent of the apartments are very high, there's like nothing to do here, you know?
You leave, but then you can't work, or you stay, and you could potentially, be called up to go and fight. So would you say that you are glad that you left? Do you think you made the right decision?
Yeah, I'm 100% glad that I left. Obviously, I do miss home, because I mean, it is home, but I don't miss like the whole government, because I don't think that it is right for a person being in his own country that has to be afraid of like the police, the government, being called up somewhere, you know? So I'm glad that I'm just in a place where if I see a policeman, I don't get like this little fright in my heart for a minute, because I did in Russia.
You guys don't understand, living in Western countries, that feeling of being safe once again, because you're not going to get mobilized. There's not going to be police grabbing you, bringing you to like an army office or whatever. So it feels way safer. It feels great to be free and not be thinking about all that bad stuff.
Going into Turkey, how have people responded to you knowing that you're Russian?
Well, I'm guessing this question is more about like Ukrainians and stuff like that. And the funny story about that is, I actually rent my apartment from a woman from Mariupol. She's very nice. Yeah, and I mean, everybody. Well, obviously, there's going to be like some Russians and some Ukrainians that are going to be kind of like fighting with each other. But in most cases, everybody knows that we're all kind of in the same place. We all ran away from like Russians from attacking and going into mobilization, and Ukrainians from also the mobilization and not being in the war.
You were an insider into what life was like in Russia, but now you're an outsider. So do you think that the international community's got the right perception of Russia?
Well, to be honest with you, I think that, you know, the way they sanction Russia, it's not really going to help at all whatsoever, because Russians are like, oh, wow, we're like the strongest. You can't, even if you sanction us, we're going to eat like, I don't know, eat the Russian soup called borscht and drink kvass. It's not really going to do much to the majority of normal people. And I mean, I don't know, to be honest with you. There's so many views that people get from Russians, and that is like one of the reasons that I made this channel for, that I YouTube on, because I wanted to show people that not every Russian is like the exact same, that, you know, drinks vodka all the time and, I don't know, plays a balalaika with a bear or something like that, you know?
And could you elaborate on that point on sanctions?
I'm guessing I'm speaking too soon right now, because sanctions take a very, very long time to actually happen. But in reality, what happened was, I like cars, so I can kind of get a car idea. Cars went like double in price, but it's not going to make people protest or go against the government, because the whole idea of sanctions is kind of, get the citizens of Russia to stand up against the government. But it's not really going to happen, because people will understand that, okay, well, do I want to go to jail, or do I want to pay $1 more for my milk, that kind of thing. And they would rather pay a dollar for the milk.
And talk to me about your online community with social media. How have people responded to your videos?
I mean, the most hate that I got was from either, like, there was one English YouTuber, I don't even know his name. He called me a Western propagandist, but he lived in Russia for 17 years. I don't know, in some random town. And I was posted on some Russian social media saying that I'm the Western propagandist of how to leave Russia and stuff like that.
And how did that make you feel?
To be honest with you, it kind of made me feel angry, because I was like, oh my God, those people are stupid. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I guess there's not much I could do about it. Maybe from all those posts, someone would actually from Russia go into my YouTube channel, look how everything looks like, and kind of think for himself as well.
Do you think that you'd ever go back to Russia? And do you want to go back?
Well, to be honest with you, I'd love to go to Russia if the government changes. But I think the biggest problem of Russia is not even the government. Well, not talking about the war right now. The biggest problem is the Russian mentality, because everybody knows that if you like, for example, tint your windows on your car and you get stopped by the police, you could talk to him for not untinting the windows and just going through, So it's the Russian mentality in general. I don't know what has to change, because I'd say even if you get another president, for example, right, like a great president that has great plans for the country, I think he will just change in a few years. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe I'm not right, because if you actually have elections and you actually change the president every 4 years, for example, maybe you wouldn't have that problem. So I don't know. It's very tough to talk about it. But I would love to go back to Russia, to be honest with you, because obviously it's like my home and stuff like that, but not under the current regime.
So you think at the moment that wouldn't be possible for you to go back?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, from hearing the stories about the FSB at the airports checking like phones and stuff like that, God knows what will happen to me after my videos. Even though they're not really that like bad. You like in any other country, the words that I said, they'd be like, "Well, who cares about this guy?" Honestly, in Russia, if they stop me and see it, they'll be like, "Oh my God, you're sponsored by the West. You betrayed our country."
It's been a year since the war began. So how do you think the war is going to play out? Do you see an end point?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't know why, but I'm getting a feeling that this war is gonna go on for a very long time. I'd say like 2 or 3 years, because that's like the minimum, I think. Because I doubt that even if, for example, Russia says, okay, well, we're not gonna fight anymore, I'd say like Ukraine would like to take back like Crimea and the Donetsk and Lugansk region, and because Russia like said that Donetsk and Lugansk is Russia now, they will think that they're attacking. It's just I don't know, but it's gonna be a very, very long war, I think, and I just hope that it would just end or something would happen.
If it still continues, as you said, for maybe 2 or 3 years, what impact do you think that's going to have on people living in Russia?
Prices will go up, because all this stuff will have to go through countries like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, like all the cars coming in, like Coca-Cola as well. It's all coming from other countries, which means like the price will be even higher. So people will definitely feel that, and I don't know. It feels like the country is kind of closing itself up from the whole world. So it'll be very tough to do something in Russia.